Hello everyone and welcome back to Anomalous Archive, where we post scary stories to help you sleep. Please comment where you are listening to my videos from, since I believe it would be fun for all of us to know. Also, please don't forget to like and subscribe. So without further ado, sit back, relax and enjoy. This is the program Important News. I am Catherine Bailey. Hello. We continue to discuss the cataclysm that occurred in July of this year in the southern Appalachians. A gigantic, purple-tinted sphere appeared as if out of nowhere and continues to grow with each passing hour, rapidly seizing more and more territory. Leaders of all countries have been actively negotiating for a week to eliminate this worldwide threat, but no clear decisions have been made yet. About this global catastrophe, what should we expect, and what possible solutions exist? Today, a specialist in the field of physics and research into energy interactions, Jack Caldwell, will tell us. Jack Caldwell, the floor is yours. Good evening. I will be frank with you. At this point, it is very difficult to give a precise assessment of everything that is happening, and there are several significant reasons for that. First, throughout the entire existence of humanity, no one has ever encountered this phenomenon. In a certain sense, we are pioneers of this natural cancerous tumor. Second, obtaining at least some information, what this disease is and how to cure it, is extremely problematic right now. You see, all our specialists who have entered, and are still entering, the sphere failed to contact us for unknown reasons. They simply disappear from the detector's field of view, as does all of their equipment. Because of all the above, I do not dare to assert anything definitively, but I do have one hypothesis regarding this anomaly. I will try to express it in simpler terms. Our world is full of energy, powerful currents that together create the strongest energetic field in the universe. If we look into quantum theory, we can understand that everything in the world consists of one simple thing: energy. It is one of the most fundamental indicators describing the state of any system known to humanity. Now imagine for a second what would happen if this most powerful energetic field suddenly collided with another. Physically, the merging of two different universes is impossible. However, I believe that right now, we are witnessing precisely this catastrophic phenomenon. Jack Caldwell, what future might await us if humanity suddenly fails to cope with this rapidly growing threat? I do not want to sound pessimistic, and I certainly do not want to frighten you. But if, for some reason, we fail to stop the anomaly's active growth, then I fear the forecast will be grim. What do you think could help solve this worldwide problem? Consolidated and united work by all people is necessary, with support from every side, regardless of political views. Only in this way can we move this rusted train from its place. And of course, we must rely on our guys carrying out combat missions inside the sphere right now. I do not know whether they are alive or not, but apart from them, there is no one else to discover and eliminate the causes of this catastrophe. I did not just show you this excerpt from an interview with Professor Caldwell. At that time, Jack Caldwell was spot on. He knew and spoke the truth, however bitter it was. Despite pressure from the authorities, I, First Lieutenant Dawson, once led the operation to save all of humanity from the energy anomaly, commonly referred to as the sphere. It was July 23rd in a small town in the southern Appalachians, when suddenly a mysterious purple orb appeared out of nowhere, baffling the best minds in the world. Hour by hour, it kept growing bigger and bigger, silently spreading over nearby areas. Once the infected region was completely sealed off, and some measurements had been taken, all government officials involved in this sphere-related activity immediately received an order from the Supreme Commander to proceed inside the anomaly without delay, determine the reason for its emergence, and evacuate any survivors from the quarantine zone. We were deployed in several echelons, and I was damn lucky to end up in the last, the fourth. Why lucky? Because the first 3 battalions, sent one after the other at 1-week intervals, vanished from all radars and stopped communicating immediately after crossing the perimeter of the zone. There were rumors among my men. At that time, I commanded the 2nd platoon of our 1st company that for a while the leadership had still been receiving intermittent distress signals. One of the radio operators in the 3rd Battalion supposedly sent a message saying the soldiers had encountered some unknown threat, were in serious battle, and were suffering heavy losses. However, no official sources confirmed that information, so all our officers genuinely preferred not to believe that nonsense. I will not say my brothers in arms lost their fighting spirit, but when our battalion's turn came, all the soldiers, both young and old, were visibly nervous, clearly realizing that nothing good awaited them on this sortie. I remember it like it was yesterday. It was August 13th, a Sunday, 7:30 in the morning, when 9 of our helicopters took off from Fort Jefferson Airfield and headed toward the perimeter of the sphere. 4th, report your status. How are things going over there? Comrade Major General, everything is going according to plan. In a couple of minutes, we'll be approaching the anomaly. Got it, 4th. Good luck out there, guys. Maybe you're our last hope, so don't let us down. After those words, the command signal to our battalion was cut off, and the helicopter cabin, where my 15-man platoon was located, plunged into tense silence once again. Comrade First Lieutenant, do you think there are aliens in there? Private Stark, the joker of our platoon, suddenly asked me. Damn it, will you shut up already? This is no time for your jokes. My deputy, Sergeant Nichols, tried to intervene, but as a commander should, I took the initiative myself. All right, cut the chatter. Everyone, focus. Men, I will say this once and only once, nobody knows what's waiting for us in there, so prepare for the worst case scenario. Everyone clear? Good. In just a moment, we will reach the zone, and then... Suddenly, our helicopter engine began sputtering sharply, and a few seconds later it shut down completely, causing the chopper, with a distinctive noise, to rapidly lose altitude. It was very strange, especially given that at that moment, we had not yet managed to cross the perimeter of the sphere, and already we were facing an unknown threat. Everything happened too fast and too abruptly. I only realized what had occurred when our lifeless aircraft made an emergency landing in a small clearing right on top of some trees. The branches, in fact, softened the fall, saving many lives at that fatal moment, many, but not all. Only 6 people from my platoon survived, me, Corporal Stark, Sergeant Nichols, and 3 privates. The rest of the soldiers, including both pilots and a medic, died in the crash. It was awful. From inside that crushed tin can, which was once a helicopter, I could see numerous mangled bodies. Some had been impaled by tree limbs, and others had their heads smashed dead against the metal. It was pure luck for me, and for the other survivors, because it felt like a game of Russian roulette, and we could have easily ended up in our comrade's place. It took us about 10 to 15 minutes to gather all our supplies into one pile, find a way out of the damaged cockpit, and carefully descend back to the ground. After I led the group a safe distance away from the wrecked helicopter, I let the guys rest and collect themselves while I tried to contact our command to learn the next steps. At the time, I had no idea that our battalion no longer existed in any real sense and that only about a platoon and a half had survived. This is First Lieutenant Dawson, commander of 2nd Platoon, 1st Company. We've crashed. Out of all our personnel, only 6 survived. Can anyone hear me? Over. I hear you, Dawson. I am Captain Mason, commander of the 3rd Company. You're not alone in going down. Looks like they slammed all of us to the ground. The battalion commanders and the others aren't responding, so I think they're dead. It's just you and me now. Comrade Captain, what do we do now? Maybe we should contact the mainland and ask for backup? I already tried, Lieutenant. It's no use. They can't hear us. Apparently, this purple bubble somehow blocks the signal and prevents it from leaving the anomaly. So there's only one thing left to do. We'll die, but we'll carry out our order no matter what. I'm afraid we're not going back. Those words sent chills racing across my entire body. I instantly realized that each of us had signed our own death warrant the moment we got near this damned sphere. Since I had no moral right to surrender or return back halfway, I had to agree to continue following our route towards certain death, taking all my guys with me. Comrade Captain, what's the plan? Ah, that's good, Lieutenant. I thought you'd chicken out. All right, then listen up. Gather your men now and head down Highway 23 toward the city. You'll come across a small village along the way. That's your landmark. We passed it about 10 minutes ago, so get moving. We'll meet at the small bridge, marked on the map as the western entrance to Asheville. We'll regroup there and go into battle under my command. Got it, or should I repeat? No, I understand. Then I'll wait for you by the bridge. Over. After finishing the conversation with the captain, I immediately assembled what was left of my platoon and laid out our plan. Naturally, everyone was shocked to find out that 90% of our battalion had died before even landing, but this grim news did not stop my men from pulling themselves together and following me to fulfill our combat mission. By following Captain Mason's instructions, our squad quickly reached Highway 23, from which we soon arrived at a small, unnamed village. There were no people or livestock, just old, dilapidated houses and the all-consuming emptiness of a soulless world. It was in that place that I first sensed the wrongness of everything that was happening. I do not know how to explain it more clearly. In that instant, I lost my sense of reality, as if I were in a dream. This situation was made worse by the bright purple sunlight filtering through the sphere's dome, enveloping everything around us. It clouded our thoughts, and our focus gradually slipped away, like a person who has not slept for 3 days. Besides, one more strange detail surprised me. In any settlement, even the remotest mountain village, there are always some signs of human life, cars, personal belongings, and so on. But here, it was so empty that it seemed the inhabitants had hurriedly packed up and fled as far away as possible. But where would they go? To my knowledge, during the entire existence of the sphere, not a single person has managed to get beyond its boundary. We had not encountered anyone inside it at the time either, so the question of where everyone had gone remained unanswered. Consulting the map and checking our route, I soon ordered the men to move on, as I instinctively felt that stopping out in the open would lead to nothing good. Just then, as our squad was setting off again, a faint noise came from the radio in my chest pocket. At first, I could not make anything out. There were some screams, noises like gunfire, and slight static, but the moment I pulled out the radio and turned up the volume, panic overtook me. It was Captain Mason. There was no trace of his former confidence in his voice. Dawson, do you copy? We're surrounded. Damn it, there are hundreds of them. Get off me, you freak, Captain, we've passed the village and are moving toward you. What's happening? Lieutenant, get to the bridge now. We need help. We're not going to last. Get away from me, monster, Honestly, when I heard that, I suddenly wanted to turn around and run from that cursed place as fast as I could, because the fear was indescribable. But my common sense insisted we had to keep going forward at any cost to save our comrades. I obeyed that voice. My squad and I ran faster than we had ever run. I do not know exactly how long we ran, but soon, up ahead, we heard the ragged crackle of automatic gunfire, which meant the bridge was very close. Because it was too risky to move along the highway, I decided to lead the men off the open road and deeper into the forest so the enemy would not spot us first. This choice later saved our lives. When we reached the edge of the forest, I saw a scene of primeval horror. Dozens of ugly, humanoid creatures were ripping Captain Mason's group to pieces with their bare hands. They were so fast and agile that the soldiers simply did not have time to react, so the monsters brutally attacked and easily tore off one body part or another. I saw no point in heroics at that moment, because the bloodthirsty creatures outnumbered us by about 5 to 1, and we risked falling victim to the same fate as our fellow soldiers in the 3rd Company. Moreover, the 4 survivors in that group were already surrounded, assaulted from all sides, and we had no chance of saving anyone. The conclusion to that bloody climax was especially tragic. The 4 soldiers formed a defensive circle and fired constantly at the ravenous creatures, but it was useless. Within seconds, the soldier guarding their rear was dragged into the horde and torn to shreds, and the remaining 2 pulled out grenades and blew themselves up. We had to finish off the few monsters that survived that massacre, because Corporal Stark, in a surge of rage, rushed into the fray against my direct order to stay in place. Fortunately, we incurred no losses. The creatures were severely injured and could not fight back effectively, which we exploited. "Stark, if you ever pull that kind of crap again, I'll break your legs. Understand?" I shouted in anger, unable to contain the tension. "Understood, Comrade First Lieutenant. It won't happen again, I swear." Damn, I still can't believe those guys are gone. "Sure, it's a shame about the men," Sergeant Nichols said, joining the conversation and stepping over to the body of one of the monsters, flipping it on its back, "but I'm more interested in what these demons are and where the hell they came from." "I think the answer lies over there," I replied decisively, pointing toward a powerful column of light rising from deep within Asheville. Its position suggested it was the energy source, and simultaneously the epicenter, of the sphere. "Listen carefully, men. There won't be any reinforcements. We're on our own, aside from whatever desperate civilians might still be in the city. They need our help. The world needs our help. We have no right to die, and no right to give up. Therefore, here is my order. We head into the center of Asheville. We move in teams of 3. Corporal Stark and Private Malcolm, you're with me. The rest go with Sergeant Nichols. Stay sharp. If you spot anything strange, shout. All right, men, let's go." If you ask random passersby on the street about their favorite holiday, many will answer without hesitation, of course, New Year's. Until recently, I thought the same way. It made me happy to see snowflakes falling from the sky and feel the frosty crunch beneath my feet. I could wander the evening streets for hours, all by myself, without a care in the world, watching other people anxiously stock up on groceries. The facades of houses lit my way with their multicolored garlands, and in those moments, it seemed that even the icy air was saturated with universal joy and fun. But everything changed with one random glance, one fateful smirk on December 29th, the second to last workday. I had stayed late, finishing up yet another project, and left the office a bit later than usual. Instead of my usual evening walk, I decided I wanted to get home by bus. By then, the public transport stop had already cleared out, and in some ways, I even enjoyed waiting there alone for the bus to arrive, at least until the following happened. In a single instant, I shifted my gaze to the opposite side of the boulevard, where there was an identical bus stop. I saw a lone human silhouette. Judging by the figure, it was a very tall man, at least 2 meters in height. Despite the poor lighting, I noticed that this person was dressed completely out of step with the weather. A wide-brimmed cowboy hat and a long leather coat that nearly touched the ground made the wearer seem strange and colorful. The giant was also wearing a snowman mask that covered his face. From time to time, it looked like this odd fellow wasn't satisfied with his already bizarre outfit, because he would sniff the cold air through his nostrils without any ceremony, as though smelling the passing traffic. He did it so voraciously and so noisily, as if searching for something extremely desirable and valuable. "Look at that, someone's holiday has apparently started already," I smirked to myself, glancing disapprovingly at the strange man. Suddenly, as though he had read my thoughts, the tall man jerked around and looked right at me. "Damn, that's awkward," I thought, quickly turning my eyes back to the road. It didn't last more than a minute, during which I thankfully saw my bus arriving. Before I got on, the stranger followed me with a piercing gaze, then vanished into the darkness of the oncoming night. December 30th, the final workday before the New Year holidays. In the office, everyone just pretended to work hard. But as soon as my colleagues and I went to our makeshift kitchen, all their conversations boiled down to sharing their plans for the holiday. Irritated, I dodged their questions and returned to my desk, impatiently eyeing the clock. Eventually, the workday ended. Running down the stairs toward the exit, I was already mentally going through all the things I planned to do to make my New Year's fun. First, I'll make some Olivier salad and put on a movie, then maybe I'll go for a walk, I thought. Once I got back to my apartment, I focused on preparing for the new year, believing that chopping salads and decorating the tree were the most important tasks in my life at the moment. How naive that was. It was already getting dark when I stepped out onto my balcony for a smoke, glancing absent-mindedly into the courtyard. Near the children's playground, I saw the same towering stranger in a leather coat, looking straight at the windows of my apartment. He stood motionless, like a statue forgotten in the pre-holiday hustle, his hat covered in freshly fallen snow. For the first time since meeting this weirdo, I felt a chill creep over me. I immediately called the police. The officer on duty listened to my ramblings and, sounding tired, told me they would respond and send a patrol car to my place. Within 30 minutes, I met the patrol and told them everything. You can imagine how silly my story sounded to them. Yet despite their sarcastic looks, they still walked around the building and, not finding any trace of the annoying stranger, offered to fill out the necessary paperwork. You can guess how much of an idiot I felt like, describing the unknown person in a snowman mask. In the end, I apologized to the officers for the made-up danger, and they left, wishing me a happy new year on their way out. For my part, I forgot about the strange man and threw myself into decorating my place with renewed energy. December 31st flew by unnoticed. I won't list all the usual pre-holiday hassles, since you surely know them well without my help. In the evening, as planned, I decided to take a walk around the city. The streets of Minneapolis were gradually emptying. My walk was nearly done when, at one of the crosswalks, I spotted a familiar silhouette wearing a long leather coat and wide-brimmed hat. The hulking figure, a snowman mask covering his face, wasn't in any rush at all. He stood at a bus stop on the opposite side of the boulevard, still greedily inhaling the frosty air. But the moment I stepped up to the crosswalk, the stranger paused his fascinating activity and stared at me. "Damn it, who are you? What do you want from me?" I shouted angrily when I caught the crazy person's intense stare. The answer was an oppressive silence. At that point, I really didn't want to cross the road, so I decided I'd keep walking to the next bus stop instead. Predictably, the giant followed me on the other side of the boulevard. I honestly tried to shake him off, but neither my faster pace nor the snowbanks in his wake got rid of that insistent pursuer. Slowly, we neared the city center, where a huge, festively decorated tree and a shopping complex stood, bustling with people. Suddenly, I got the idea to slip inside the mall and blend into the crowd of shoppers. That would be the easiest way to lose this psycho, who clearly had bad intentions. That's exactly what I did. The stranger followed me right up to the mall's glass doors, but did not enter. Swept along by the flow of people, I looked back and, not seeing the big guy in the leather coat among the shoppers, continued walking over the marble floors, which gleamed white under the entire palette of holiday lights. Time flew by as I strolled through my favorite shops, and before I knew it, it was 11 p.m., closing time for the mall. The security guards politely began ushering out the last visitors. The unsteady lines of people, myself included, moved toward those same glass doors. In that moment, I desperately did not want to leave my zone of safety, but I had no other choice. The guards wouldn't listen to my wild story about a tall man who'd been following me for 3 days. And since I didn't want to call the police again and look like a fool one more time, I had to step outside. There, an unpleasant surprise was already waiting for me. "Holy crap!" burst out of my mouth when I saw my pursuer in the middle of the parking lot, directly in front of the entrance steps. "What do you want from me, man? Leave me alone!" I shouted before darting off toward the city park as fast as I could. After a while, our chase turned into a full-blown pursuit. Unaccustomed to so much running in the cold, I started gasping for air, but it seemed to do nothing to the stranger. He kept up easily, neatly dodging anyone in his path. "Who are you?" I wondered. "You're clearly no drunk or robber, so then who?" Whether it was the stress or too much oxygen, I started asking myself the right questions, but I had no answers yet. We finally reached the Central Park, where an ice rink and a giant snow slide were crowded with people. The crowd worked to my advantage, and I managed to vanish for a time among the noisy townsfolk, decked out in tinsel and holding lit sparklers. Every time I tried asking someone for help, though, I got nothing. They looked at me like I was a complete idiot and told me to get lost so I wouldn't kill their holiday vibe. As I pushed my way through the crowd, I kept turning my head, trying not to lose sight of my dangerous stalker. For a while, I stayed out of his line of sight until I practically collided with him, my face almost pressed against that all-too-familiar leather coat. Once more, I dashed off in the opposite direction, and our game of cat and mouse spilled into a quieter area of the park, where I slammed headlong into 2 tough-looking, half-drunk men. "Well, look at that, Ron," said one of them. "We got ourselves a catch. And you said there'd be no one to knock around tonight." He grabbed me by the collar with one hand. "Guys, help me, please. Some psycho in a mask is chasing me," I pleaded, pointing toward the giant, who by now had appeared on the snowy path just 5 steps away. "That one, huh? Hey, Ron, check it out, he's wearing some ugly hat," the first man said, grinning. "Now this is a real holiday treat." Losing interest in me, the guys let go of their iron grip and turned their full attention to the stranger. The next few seconds were pure insanity. The 2 tough men closed in on the giant and landed a couple of hard hits each. For any ordinary person, that would have been more than enough to land them in the hospital for a good while, but not this stalker of mine. Like he didn't feel a thing, the 2-meter figure made one sudden move, hitting in Ron's chest and tearing out a bloody piece that looked like some internal organ. The second man froze, seemingly failing to grasp the reality of what had just happened. He silently looked from his friend's lifeless body to the stranger, who was now holding a bloody hunk of flesh in his outstretched hand, steam rising off it. "You bastard," the man finally screamed, snapping out of his daze. He hurled another strong blow, knocking the snowman mask off the stranger's face. "Oh, my God," the man gasped, horrified. "Oh, my God," I echoed him at almost the same moment. The fallen mask revealed a vicious snarl of sharp fangs, belonging to a demonic creature whose eyes burned with hellfire. Its face was revolting, with a twisted nose and dark green skin covered in some disgusting slime. An instant later, the monster delivered a monstrous blow to the man's head, casually separating it from his shoulders. The man's body collapsed in the snow, and once again, I was left alone with my pursuer. I had no choice but to run. Run as far and fast as possible, ideally clear out of the city, which I immediately did. Fortunately, a driver hauling leftover Christmas trees passed by the park just then in his truck. Otherwise, I can't even imagine what might have happened to me. Seeing me in the middle of the road, the truck driver slammed on the brakes and started honking, telling me to move. I took the opportunity to jump into the vehicle and, explaining my situation, begged him to drive me as far away from Minneapolis as possible. Getting farther and farther from that place, I looked back to see if anyone was following me. Glancing out the rear window, I noticed a still, dark silhouette of the demon in the coat and wide-brimmed hat, just standing there in the middle of the road. Right now, as you hear my story, I'm in some godforsaken little village near Bemidji in the United States, hoping that here, among the forests and impassable swamps, no one will ever find me, not even him. And yet, whenever I see a vehicle passing by on the highway, I can't help searching for that very same creature, which no one can stop. Where it's hiding now remains unknown, but I do know one thing, that devilish being will stop at nothing until it finds whatever it's looking for.